Hello and welcome to this edition of the Young Americans podcast. Here to finish our discussion about gender. Not maybe finish it, but keep it rolling, talking about the male aspect of gender. So I got the lovely Shannon here, and we're going to get into it right now.
So here to talk about dudes. I mean, I guess you'd be kind of like sort of an expert on it, being one yourself, maybe? Do you feel like you know a lot about men? Yeah.
Confirmed.
I mean, what is
dude.
it? Right. So what is it, cisgender male? What does it mean for you to be a man?
Well, right away, a man would be like, what the fuck is cisgendered? I don't know what that is. I know what a man is, but cisgendered, I don't know what the fuck that is.
Cisgendered means you were born and the doctor assigned you as male and you continue to identify as a male.
What a sexist pig. Who does that doctor think he is? Not even giving me the time to listen to music and decide if I'm a man or not.
It was the 80s, man. A lot of weird choices made.
No, I'd say, what do I think as a man? Is that basically what you're asking me?
Yeah. Like, is there a clear definition that you have for a man?
Mostly just dick and balls. Pretty much that's it. You know, and nowadays I know that the conversation can be a little bit more vast in terms of the definition, but I go standard dick and balls mostly.
But so what, like, as far as like how you present yourself or how you feel you should be represented in the world, are there certain things that you do that you think make you a man?
I think that there are general things men do more of, I guess. But I don't think that those actions make someone a man. For example, like working or building a bridge or a building or swinging a hammer or firing a rifle. You know, those things might be more male-centric, but I don't think those things make you a man. That's why I guess I just lean on the dick and balls thing, because you can't really do dick and balls if you don't have dick and balls, I guess. I know, there's the
well, you run into like the transgender thing and
yeah, sure.
So I guess I'm looking for a more like, when you hear somebody say like act like a man, or even like boys will be boys, do you feel that there's like a set of rules or guidelines that men, especially more modern men, have to follow for society?
Sure. In that way, there are the expectations, I would say, that society has of a man, in that men are not supposed to cry, be emotional, rub the dirt in it and get up. Those sorts of things are standard textbook man definitions when you look at society and interacting with society. Boys will be boys type of logic, I think, is in a way like the growing pains that you have with boys being aggressive, boys being mischievous, those sorts of things. I don't limit that to a boy or manhood in general, but speaking from a societal viewpoint, I think those are things that society projects onto us, and we either accept and put them into our nature and how we raise our children and interact with each other, or we don't, and we have a more wide scope of how we interact. But to put it into a nutshell, it would be not being woman-like, I guess, not being feminine, not caring about how you look, having a beard, having a cool mustache, not having a woman mustache. That's a weird mustache. I don't know, wearing jeans. That's kind of manly, right?
I literally am wearing jeans right now. That can't be just a dude thing.
I guess that's not dudeish. I guess that's why I just refer to the dick and balls thing, because anymore, what does it really mean to be a man, you know? And I know that that gets a little shaky when we talk about the transgender thing, but ironically, I would affirm that that is that is true then of now you're going through the transgender thing, and ultimately if it is to have the surgery or whatever, then they would be a man, right? Now they have a dick, maybe plus or minus balls. I don't know if they have like the package deal at the cosmetic surgery place or not, but if they get the package deal, I feel like then that confirms my viewpoint of just dick and balls mostly makes you a man, I think.
Okay.
And I will
So
say that Lance Armstrong is still a man, even though he lost the ball and cheated on all those bike races. And I would say he's actually less of a man because he cheated on the bike races, not because he lost the ball. So I don't want to get too caught up in the number of balls and the dick thing, but you know what I'm saying, right?
I feel like you're saying two things. I mean, like, so is it the dick and balls thing, or is it just the way you represent yourself?
Well, when we last talked about gender, I think I tried to pigeonhole it in the way of what is our genetics, and
Hmm.
does that have a relation to our gender, or is it strictly our sex? So, speaking about sex, an X and Y chromosome, I am assuming that's what I have, and that I believe makes me a man. In a nutshell, X and Y chromosome or dick and balls, uh, in my view, is making somebody a man. And clearly, you could try and be a man without those things involved, the chromosomes or the dick and balls. But I feel like you got to have quick and fast rules. Like if somebody's asking how to get up to Third Street, you got to know, boom, boom, right? And I just go dick balls. That's what I say when I'm asked what a man is.
So would you then be reluctant to be like, if you ask somebody, are they a man or a woman, and they said they were a man, then that's not enough?
No, because I honestly believe that there is a side of gender that is up to the person, and I can respect that. Do I believe that it is more basic than that? Of course. As I've outlined, I think it's very basic. It's all the way down on a cellular structure level that determines someone's sex. But if somebody told me that they're a man and that their name was Bruno, and even though they may look more like not Bruno, maybe more like Sarah or something like that. Whatever. I'll call them whatever they want. It doesn't matter to me. I think that in that way, gender is loose in our society. And I don't try to put up a wall and tell somebody what they are or are not. I just want to interact with them in a respectful manner in the best way that I can. If they're a bull dyke, though, and they're coming at me too hard with it, I I just try to hold my ground in that I don't feel like I judge people and I don't feel like I put them in a box. And if you're prejudging me that I'm going to have a problem with you because you have a Justin Bieber haircut and gauges, then we've started on the wrong foot. You know what I mean?
Right, but I mean, to me, that's regardless of gender. Like, that's if a person comes at you with a shitty attitude, it's like, okay, bye. No, thank
Exactly.
you.
Exactly. So I try and keep an open mind about it. I really don't feel like you can distill it down for that person. Maybe I can
Yeah.
distill it down for myself, but their view of gender, sex, and whatever might be more complicated than mine. And it's really not my position to distill it down for them.
Okay. All right. To pivot to a little bit more of a behavioral setting, do you feel like you act differently when you're around all men than you do when you're around a mixed group or all women?
I can say that there are times where being around a mixed group, maybe you're not letting out as many farts, not burping as much, maybe a little bit less ball scratching. Those sorts of things are a fact, and any man that would, try and state otherwise is either a pig or not socialized, in my mind. But aside from that, I would confidently say that I have the same personality around men and women because I do believe that they're equal and I'm open to offending either of them. And I don't hold back whether it's a man or a woman group. I make sexist jokes in front of women that understand where I'm coming from. Clearly, I don't want to make someone feel uncomfortable or anything like that if it's going to really be a problem. But I
Right.
try to be myself no matter what group I'm in.
Yeah, you've never had a problem pointing out absurdities.
Right. But I would say that any man who doesn't at least admit the less farting, ball scratching, and burping.
That makes sense. So, do you feel, as far as you mentioned earlier, children, do you feel that there's a need to raise boys differently than girls?
I mean, I can understand how it would make someone feel uncomfortable if you have the boy and you're bringing home the Malibu Barbie dream house and playing with ponies and unicorns and that sort of thing. I could understand how that would be difficult for another person to wrap their mind around and that they would not agree with that logic of, why try and put a boy on a certain track, which is odd because, typically with boys, we have the soccer ball bouncing around and the trucks and Bob the Builder hat and whatever. I think it's about the individual child as much as it can be. If the child says that they want to go see Frozen, you don't refuse that because it might be a little bit of a feminine movie with a positive message, you know? So I think as much as you can, you try and put those things in a child's hands. Ironically, as little as they know, it's kind of like the unfiltered way of guidance rather than our super overthought way in society as an adult of what do I want my child to be exposed to? Is there too much of a homosexual message in that movie? I don't know if I want them listening to that type of music yet. I think sometimes we just have to let the child guide us in the ways that it's appropriate.
I mean, I think there are levels to that. I mean, letting the child, you know, pick their own toys. I mean, it can be tough. But yeah, when, somebody has a boy and people just bring over, blue things that are soccer or football related, and they don't bring them any dolls or any like frilly blankets or anything like that. I think, we impress upon gender from a very young age,
True.
consciously or subconsciously.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm coming from the Toys R Us years,
Hmm.
where you got to go to Toys R Us and there were like 8 aisles of awesome boy toys, like the action figures, the Lego stuff, like the Nerf guns. And then eventually the video games kind of got like pushed into that. And on the other end of Toys R Us, there was the girl aisle with the Barbies and, maybe some like childish makeup things and whatever. And it was like an aisle and a half, and you just never went to those aisles. So there was never anything cool in it, and maybe nowadays it's changed. I don't know. I haven't been to a Toys R Us lately. But
Well, there was, yeah, I mean, there was a recent, I don't know if you could call it a controversy, but people got a bit into Target because, that classification, that blue aisles for boys and pink aisles for girls, there was enough pressure where Target removed genders essentially from toy aisles. So the aisles now just say toys. And trust me, I've been to Target enough to know this. And I think that's important because I remember as a girl, I had a huge Matchbox collection. I wore pants and played 3 sports a year, but I also had a Barbie collection and a doll house. But I wore, I had short hair and baggy jeans and, tie-dye t-shirts and got mistaken for a boy on a fairly regular basis. Uh,
do you
but,
feel like those things would not have happened if the aisles weren't labeled boy or girl for you?
I think I would have had a different level of comfort being able to like go down the boys' aisles. And then even as, all the way up until I was probably about 14 or 15, I would like shop in the boys section in clothing as well. Cause that's just what I felt more comfortable in. That's what I felt represented me more as a person. And it's not that I wanted to be a boy. I just felt that those were the clothes that fit me the best and I thought that I looked good in. Like you didn't know me in 6th grade, but I definitely wore a lot of like Kurt Cobain plaid t-shirts and ripped up baggy jeans, and I had a weird bad long mullet of some kind. I don't know.
Nice.
I did not get my act together
I can picture
fashion
the mullet
wise.
now.
It's bad. It's not great. I wasn't a pretty child.
Well,
I've gotten
I
better.
just want to push back on this aisle naming bullshit right away
Hmm.
because I can understand where they're coming from with that. And I'm not even upset at Target for caving, even though I think they're pussies to do so. What I am upset with is, like I just mentioned, when I was a child and I went to Toys R Us, I didn't go to the boy aisle because it was blue or aisle 5 is boy aisle and it had boy aisle written over it. I went to it because those toys were cool. And the
Okay, but
toys in the girl aisle fucking sucked. And the packaging was, it's not that it said girl aisle. Even if you
it
took the
did.
names off
No,
it,
they did. It said girls' toys and boys' toys.
right, I get that. But I'm saying that I didn't look at that. I mean, you're like 3 foot high as a child. You can't, it's like you're not looking at. What I'm getting at is that that is a thing that adults care about and kids don't even understand, right? Kids aren't making those calculations. Like, kids aren't signing the petition asking people to take boy and girl off the aisle. That's
Right,
something that
but
adults are projecting onto
right.
Target, saying that
I
it's
get you.
important to
I
remove
get you,
that.
but kids are stupid and easily impressionable.
Kids are
And
definitely
so,
stupid. We agree on that.
yeah. Yeah, no, kids are dumb. And that's fine. Like, kids are supposed to be dumb. Like, they've had very little life experience. I can't expect them to be all that. They can occasionally be like profound, but that's just like accidental. That is just random synapses firing in their brains, and like sometimes interesting combinations of words come out. But they're generally stupid. And so, as our job as adults and as parents and as child uh, caregivers, for me, it is to expose them to the widest range of toys and experiences and clothes, and not necessarily, shame them if they are attracted to, you know one gender, that, or, a certain kind of toy that doesn't necessarily fit into their gender. Like, I've seen people like take dolls away from little boys and say, don't act like a girl,
Okay,
which
well,
I
those
think,
parents suck, and I want to be
right, but it
clear on
happens.
that. that is like the ultimate failure of parenting. Of,
Right,
again,
but it
like
happens.
putting that on you're putting that idea on a child of what is and is not okay, instead of
And I
letting the
think
child just play with
And that's
whatever
what those
toy. That's
aisles do, though. That's what those aisles do. Those aisles put those parameters on those toys, is to say that these are the girls' toys and these are the boys' toys.
I don't think that it's a. I think that that specific example you're giving is a shame issue, in that the parent is interacting with the child, instilling shame in them for choosing the wrong toy. But from a societal point, I don't feel like Target should be shamed for having a boy or a girl aisle. And I would even come at it from the other angle, and I think we're saying the same thing from a different angle, which is we should be comfortable with the idea that a toy is feminine and another toy is masculine. Running away from that fact does not make it easier in society when you have a boy playing with a girl doll. That is something that we have to deal with as a parent or as a caregiver, and taking a name off an aisle does not change that. It's still a feminine toy. It's still going to be in a pink box. It's still going to look like Barbie.
So are you
And you
saying the change that needs to be made is to not shame femininity?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's my entire point, is that making Target say something isn't a boy aisle or isn't boy clothing does absolutely fucking nothing to address the real elephant in the room, which is what happens when you have someone like yourself that is a woman and walks over to the boy shirt department and picks up a shirt. Would you not do that if it had man written all over the fucking aisle? Maybe you still would. And that doesn't change the challenge that you will have as a person because of that, or the conversation that could happen around that choice. And I feel like that's where society and liberalism goes off the rails of, if we just get rid of certain words, then this problem is easier. And it's
Well,
the exact opposite. We have to live with those words. Those words are going to remain in society. Even if you take boy off the aisle, there's still going to be the connotation of being boy toys. So you have to address it either way, with the word being on the aisle or not, right?
I definitely don't disagree. I don't understand why then you wouldn't be open to then the aisles not being labeled. Like, I totally agree. The boxes are going to stay the same. Hot Wheels is still going to have, the classic, blue and yellow, and Barbie's evolved a little bit. I mean, at least Barbie has a whole line of like petite dolls and tall dolls and curvy dolls, and it's it's all very exciting for the vastness of the variety that as women is being represented. But so why would it be a big deal to then just remove boy and girl from the aisle and just make everything, green or whatever, or just white? Like, what's wrong with that then? Like, you can still address the topic, but I think, as we say, symbols are for simple minded people, but let's be honest, most people are pretty simple minded. So to remove that barrier and maybe even open that discussion, I don't like, is that something you still want to fight against?
I'm not against removing it from the logic of I think there has to be a boy toy aisle and a girl toy aisle. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that when you remove boy from the aisle, but you still put all of the boy toys in that aisle, again, it's the same factors that we're dealing with when you have a girl go to that aisle and pick up a toy or
Right,
vice
but
versa,
it's,
and having the aisle labeled does not change that in society. All it does is make the parents feel like they've won because Target caves. Now it's not on the aisles anymore, and the parents feel good about that. But that does not change the societal challenge of when you have a child going to the opposing aisle and picking up a toy. And what I'm saying is that I feel like we're past this as a society.
right,
That
but that's
we
what I mean.
should
We're
not
past it.
argue about what the aisle says. Like, it could literally say Hitler toys on the aisle, as far as I'm
No, and it's not
concerned.
the point. It's so to me the point becomes it's no longer the boy aisle, it's now the truck aisle. It's the car aisle. It's the doll aisle. It's the hairdressing aisle. Like that's what it is. It's not the boy car aisle. It's just the car aisle, and that's where all the cars are. That's where all the airplanes are.
And that's fine. I think that there's some logical things of when you're organizing a retail store, it just makes it easier. When you
Absolutely. Yeah, it doesn't you want that. You need some efficiency. It can't just be all chaos because all is equal and all is chaos. No, but it's not, you know, it- calling it the truck aisle is just as
and
simple as calling it the boy aisle.
That would be my challenge to all the liberals who really think that the aisle name is that fucking important. Next time when you go to Macy's, bitch, we're going to mix in all the dude clothes into all the women's clothes. And you're going to have to circle for hours to figure out where the fucking women's shoes are and where the fucking women's shirts are. If you want it to be that way, to where we
No, but I
don't
think
separate things by sex, then be prepared for shopping to take 4 hours if you don't want
no,
to be
it's not.
offended.
No, it's not about that. It's not about the big sweeping there is no gender. I mean, it's toys. Like this is the one topic. It is just about toys, and especially for young kids. Like toys should be toys. Clothes obviously, you can have,
But what's
split
wrong?
wide.
Like hypothetically, you still have the aisles labeled, right? And you take your son into Toys R Us or Target, and you bring the kid into Target, and the kid you ask the kid what kind of toy do you want, and the kid says, "Well, I want a doll." What's wrong with walking the kid over to the girl aisle and picking out a doll and having it be known that, yes, we're standing in the girl aisle, you've chosen a doll, and now we'll go home and play with it? Like,
Yeah.
what? I don't get like why that isn't a possibility in society, and why we have to structure society to facilitate that when ultimately that's a parenting challenge.
Yeah, right, because most people are stupid, and children sometimes need to be saved from their parents' stupidity, or at least given a chance.
I mean, I
Because
don't think a
a
lot of
lot of
kids are
parents,
like dropped off at Target with a 20 that are
no, of
struggling to
course
figure
not,
out
of
what
course
toy
not.
they want.
So, if their self-conscious parent, feels a little bit better about walking down an aisle labeled doll than labeled girl, I think that's a good thing. I think that's a simple fix to what can be, a big problem, especially, and not to always bring it back to the transgender thing, but like, a little 4 or 5 year old transgender kid who, he's exploring, you know, what would be, considered something that he liked, which may be considered more feminine toys, to have, be like, yeah, I can walk down this aisle and I can feel okay. And I'm just saying sometimes it's okay to separate things by gender, but when it comes to things like toys, like a toy is a toy. And I don't know if you remember, but when we were really young back in the 80s, I had a discussion with someone like, you looked at toys, and so many toys, especially like blocks and trucks, it was all very gender neutral. Like it was all, you know, those like, basic red, blue, yellow primary colors. And it was just, that's what they were. I think, it was in the 90s when all of a sudden this whole boy toy, girl toy, because I remember especially going into, you think of like old fashioned toy shops, and they were just aisles. It was just aisles of toys, and it was the same thing. It was the blocks, it was the dolls. There were no, big pink stripes that went down one aisle and big blue stripes that went down another. I think this is something that we've come to, not something that's been with us forever.
Yeah, and I think some of those things are the soullessness of marketing. And it's not a calculated decision of let's reinforce male ideas. It's how can we move more units? And when we have GI Joe killing Cobra on the front of the box with, an awesome death kill shot, we sell more of those toys. And that just happens to not be a feminine idea. I think that ultimately a lot of those changes that we've come to are the soullessness put on us by marketing. And I'm not saying that there are ideas that are reinforced by that there are standards that are reinforced by that we may disagree with on a gender level. But I think that ultimately you're giving a whole lot of credit in those cases that something is being facilitated and thought out to diminish somebody's gender when really it's, in my mind, more of a marketing decision of we need to know where to put all these G.I. Joe toys. So we're going to throw them in this aisle. We sell more of them when we make them look more aggressive, bigger, stronger, faster. And that's marketing. That's how you sell a product. And I think there are consequences of those decisions, but we can't act like G.I. Joe company is purposely trying to tell women it's not okay to buy a G.I. Joe based on the aisle it's in or the packaging.
Right, and I don't think it's necessarily the manufacturers of GI Joe, it's the Toys R Us or the Target that decide that, a GI Joe goes in the boy aisle and a Barbie doll goes in the girl aisle, not just Barbie dolls go next to Barbie dolls and GI Joes go next to GI Joes. That's obvious. It's when you place that, okay, then these are for boys and these are for girls, that to me is where the line is. I mean, it's a small line and it may seem insignificant to you, but I think it could be a small but significant change for, outreach to happen at a young age for genders, for boys to maybe be able to understand girls better and girls to be able to understand boys better, which I think is important for everyone.
Yeah, I would say it's a retarded line. That's just my opinion. I'm sorry, but I think again, it's just those are titles we're espousing and we're facilitating for a specific purpose. And then you're looking at it from another angle, this nefarious angle that those titles prevent boys and girls from interacting, or those titles reinforce gender stereotypes. Those titles on aisles are facts. Those are masculine
No,
type of toys. And if a girl likes those toys, that's fine. And the parent should feel comfortable taking their girl to a boy aisle and picking out a toy and vice versa. And there's nothing that society should have to do to facilitate parenting on that level. That is
right.
ultimately
And to me,
someone's
then why have the
responsibility.
sign? Then why have the sign? Like if it's
So grandma
if
knows where the fucking G.I. Joes are, man. She's old,
then
got a
why
bad knee. She can't walk around Target all fucking day. She's got to know if they're in aisle 12 or not, man.
that's so then you look for the aisle that says this is GI Joes. Like I just
Shannon,
it
you
seems
can't
like
have
a
an
weird.
infinite amount of aisles. So you're going to have G.I. Joe,
No,
X-Men,
it's
Jurassic Park.
no.
Every movie that they crap out that year, you're going to have to put a new
So
toy aisle in.
no, it's not about no. You don't have to put a new aisle in. So then it's superhero figurines. Like it's not that complicated.
Well,
It's
wait a
really
minute.
not.
No. I'm not going to allow that. Why are they heroes? Who are you to decide who our heroes are? You can't make a hero aisle because if I don't go into that aisle and I don't see a statue of Martin Luther King, then I'm demanding that Target fucking take that sign down. That is not a superhero aisle because when I come into the store, I know who my heroes are. It's Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and sometimes on the right day, Barack Obama. And if I don't see a statue of all three of them in that fucking hero aisle, then Target needs to get on its knees and start begging for forgiveness right now. That's the logic you're playing with here. of
I feel like you're overcomplicating this issue.
no, what I'm doing is I'm saying that what you have in an aisle has nothing to fucking do with our responsibility to determine its interaction with gender. It is a male toy. It's fine to know it's a male toy. It's not a problem to have a girl play with a
I
male
don't think
toy.
we need to. I don't think we need to label it a male toy. I think mostly boys
But
are going
what
to
if it is a male
gravitate
toy?
towards
That's
that
what I'm
stuff.
saying. It's like you're running away from the reality,
I'm not
which
running
is
away from anything. I'm just
we
saying,
make a male
just call it
toy or a feminine
just
toy.
call it an action figure. I won't call it a superhero. Call it an action figure, and call it a day.
I don't know. When I think of action, Shannon, I think of a lot of different things. And the first thing that comes to mind is Harriet Tubman. And if I don't go into that aisle and see a Harriet Tubman figure, then I'm not seeing action figures, okay? And Target better
You're taking it
fucking fix that right now.
Reel it in. Reel it in. Taking it too far.
I'm just saying that's the logic that you know.
No, that's the extreme version of this logic. That is taking it too far. And I don't think it's that big of a deal to say, hey, you know what? It's not the boy aisle, it's not the girl aisle, it's the Barbie aisle, it's the Matchbox aisle, it's the Nerf gun aisle.
But I'm going a step beyond that, Shannon. That's what you're not seeing by my ridiculousness.
I understand, and I'm saying that you don't need to go a step beyond that.
But a step beyond that is saying it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It is a boy toy.
So if it doesn't
so
matter,
live with
then
it.
why, like, if it doesn't matter, why insist on labeling it a boy?
Because ultimately, you have to face the fact of, let's just make a fake product, for example. There is, in the unnamed aisle that we shall never know if it's a male or girl aisle, there is a product there, and it is a male product. It's created for boys, okay? There is nothing wrong with a parent walking their daughter into that aisle, taking it off the shelf, letting them go home and play with it, and saying, look, you got something that was created for a boy. What I'm saying is that
there are insecure parents out there, and I think it goes more.
Well, fuck those parents. We can't make an aisle for every fucking shitty parent.
Those kids, then.
Well,
those kids.
Yeah, I don't want any kids to be fucked.
Exactly. And so I think it goes more because, obviously females are seen as, as lesser, as weaker. So I think it's more for those little boys that want to, to harness their nurturing side, because I obviously think that men are able to be nurturers, and to, get a little baby doll and play with that baby doll. And I think that should be encouraged and should be a viable option for little boys. But when they, walk down an aisle and see that it's all pink, and, they hear enough in all other parts of society, whether it's in school or on television, though I will say children's television is getting a bit better at that. Ew, girls, gross. No. We teach them that. Kids don't come out dividing themselves by gender. That's what we as society and parents and media teach them.
I would agree that there's a clear distinction that parents put down the middle, and that enforces gender stereotypes. But I would also say that there is a certain natural factor where sometimes boys want to be around other boys and girls want to be around other girls. And it's not society's purpose to facilitate that at all times. And what you're saying is that if a parent walks into Target, you'd be more comfortable with Target assigning an independent chaperone to that parent to make sure that they're creating the best toy selection for their child, versus just allowing it to happen.
I'm just saying that there's just a toy section, and the parents and children are free to wander that toy section with no extra, added subliminal messaging of bright pink and baby blue.
I think they should have to fucking live with that subliminal messaging, because when you go across the street and it's not Target and it's some other store that you can't bring to their knees writing a bunch of stupid fucking letters, then what are you going to do in that situation? That's what I'm saying, is that we cannot make society conform to avoid these things.
No, you're not going to fix everything at once, but I'm saying just because you can't fix everything, why should you fix nothing?
Right, and I'm not saying that the argument is all toy aisles need to be the same no matter what store we're talking about. What I'm saying is that when you start taking things off of the aisle for a specific purpose and naming it, and not having to focus on the actual challenge that society is presenting you in that moment, that's where you're going to fail. And that's, to me, is the wrong road. Because again, you cross the street and you go to another store and it is set up that way. And there is a boy aisle. So what do you do with the child in that circumstance? You just don't shop there because you might have to be faced with that decision and explain to your child that, okay, well, this is a boy aisle and this is a boy toy and it's okay for you to have it. Like, that's what I'm getting at, is that setting this standard that we shouldn't have a certain aisle or whatever, not only is it just retarded on the level of it doesn't remove the challenge of that in society to begin with, but secondly, it's just never going to happen worldwide. There's always going to be a boy section, girl section for something.
No,
for
but
something.
Again, why say fix nothing when you can't fix it all?
I don't think it's broken.
Like,
that's why. I just don't think that is going to solve gender issues, what we label
no, of course
an
it's
aisle.
not going to solve gender issues, but I think it's something that can help. And I think that it's, Target taking that step, I think, has created a conversation, which I do think is a good thing. And Target being obviously a large major brand could then have influences on smaller stores. But
and that's true. That is true, that it's good that there's a discussion out there about it, and I'm glad we're talking about it. But again, it's like if Target surveyed all of their customers in a day, the majority of them would not give a fuck what the aisle is titled and would shop the exact same. It's a minority of people that are vocal about it and think it really matters and it's affecting their children and it's affecting the future. And without that, we're not on the right track gender-wise. That is not the majority of Target shoppers.
All that stuff, but you say all that stuff with such disdain, but I think that's stuff that's important. Like,
it is important, but what I'm saying is that if I go down to Men's Warehouse and I bitch that there's no female clothing in Men's Warehouse, should Men's Warehouse have to now start stocking women's clothing?
I think that would probably be a smart idea for Men's Warehouse. I think to diversify their stock and expand their customer base would probably be a good idea for what I'm assuming at this point is a struggling store. And women's suits can be badass when they're tailored correctly.
Yeah, those pantsuits were pretty hot during the election.
Okay, not Clinton's pantsuits, but
so when you're driving down the street and you see,
it looks fucking awesome.
I'm not saying women can't look great in a suit. What I'm saying is that it's Men's fucking Warehouse, okay? And when I'm on the highway and I see Men's Warehouse over there to the right, they're communicating with me very clearly that it's Men's Warehouse. I'm going to find male clothing in there. And I can't go to that company with my own personal convictions and demand that they conform to what I want. Now, what I can do is not shop there if they're not meeting my standards of gender neutrality. That is my choice, and that is exercising that choice. But going to a company and demanding, clearly as a minority of people, I'm assuming that most people are not upset that Men's Warehouse isn't offering blouses, okay? I would be in the minority there. And it's wrong for me to go to them and demand that they change their business practices just to suit me. Why don't I just shop somewhere else if I feel like Men's Warehouse isn't representing me?
I totally agree with you.
All right, fuck Men's Warehouse then.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that would be
And those parents should shop somewhere else than Target then. If you're not feeling like Target's
doing the right thing. Target's doing the right thing.
Target is being pussies. That's what they're doing.
No,
they need to just say it's the aisle. If you can't dig it, then go across the street somewhere else.
All right, we all know we're going to be shopping on Amazon anyways.
Touche. And maybe that is what you're saying. When somebody is shopping at home, they choose what words describe the product.
Right, they
not
feel
Amazon.
More comfortable. Yes, again, they feel more comfortable ordering a doll off Amazon because it's anonymous, and Amazon isn't going to judge them for buying a doll for their little 4-year-old boy.
I don't feel like Target judges somebody for buying anything other than thankfulness that they're in a brick and mortar store. But what I'm saying is that when you're online and you're typing into Amazon search field, man shirt or girl toy, you're deciding what words are describing the product, right?
Absolutely. And I think that clothing is something that's different from toys.
Well, sure.
And especially as you become an adult. And again, I'm not advocating for the complete elimination or complete neutralization of gender. I'm just saying that we become so obsessed about it, and we become so fixated on, okay, so this will be boy and this will be girl and this will be, how it'll be. And it's like, why get so uppity about it?
I
Why
don't
not
I don't
just
think
say,
people are I think the only people obsessed with it ironically are the people that are demanding aisle names be changed. Those are the people that are obsessed with it. Everyone else is just at fucking Target trying to get through the day and get their toilet paper and get the kid to stop crying, get a birthday card for their mom, and they're not even thinking about what the aisle is titled. They're literally
okay, well,
just
I'm
trying to
part
get
of
through
that
their
minority
day.
though. I'm part of that minority. I was a nanny, and also I had a lot of like house manager duties where I had to go and buy toys for the little boys, and for mostly for their friends, for their birthday parties for friends. And every time I would go in there, whether it was, I would always make a conscious effort, especially if it was for a little girl, to not buy her a a doll or a Barbie. I made sure that I would buy her a music set or a tool set to, make sure that I wasn't once again one of those people who was going to force little girls to only like dolls or only like jewelry or only like cooking
See,
sets.
and that's a cool idea you had, and you executed that idea regardless of what aisle the product was in. You
Right, but we
you
know that
came
I'm
into the
a
store and
stronger,
executed
yeah.
that plan regardless of where the toys were because you had made up your mind that I'm going to get a toy that doesn't push them one way or another. And okay, maybe I'm the person who's going to get them something that's a little off track in another person's mind, but I'm comfortable with it and I want the child's mind to be open that yes, these are things you can play with. That is what I'm tasking people to do when they go into a retail store.
Yeah,
Have a
and
fucking idea of
no,
what you
like,
want.
that people aren't going to do that. You know that people are, especially when buying presents for other kids and whatnot, and not knowing, oh God, what does this kid even like? To automatically go, oh, I'm going to a birthday party for a girl, so it has to be down the pink aisle, or for a boy, it has to be down the blue aisle. Why isn't it just down the toy aisle and you walk up and down the aisle?
Well, because grandma's going to get us clothes either way.
Awkward clothes too, ugly clothes. My
Yeah.
thing is, it really coming down to, if you're buying a child for a toy, make it fucking
Buying a
age
child for a
appropriate.
toy.
Sorry, other way around.
uh,
We can't-
we're not in Laos.
no, no, but when you're buying children's toys, just make it age appropriate. Don't buy a toy for a 3-year-old that's labeled 7 and up, because they're just going to break it. Like, they're just going to break it, and they're just going to get frustrated with it, or they're going to swallow something that they shouldn't
Try and
swallow.
eat it.
And
Yeah.
so I think the most important thing here is, guys, pay attention to age. Forget gender. It's all about age.
Do you feel
Stop.
like in the older products, gender is more clearly defined? And, for example, like with video games, it's like above a certain age, there might be more violence or sexual connotation and that sort of thing.
I mean, the closest friend that I have who plays video games and plays all those Red Dead Redemption, and all those like violent games, which I can't name. I don't play video games. I don't.
Yeah,
But
I'm
but
ignorant on it as well.
yeah, and they also own an N64, a Nintendo, a Wii, a PS4 or 3 or whatever, and an Xbox, and she loves that shit
Right.
and has loved it since we were little. And I personally find it all ridiculous, and even I will play Wii bowling and Wii tennis, and that's it. I won't play any other video games. Like, that's just who I am. But I I I I definitely think that they are more blatant, I would say, in marketing towards men when it comes to video games.
See,
And
but I
from
would submit that it's video games are one of the few frontiers where a lot of the complaints and bullshit about gender does kind of take a backseat because, yeah, in Grand Theft Auto, it is going to be geared towards men of you get to steal a car and carry a gun and maybe bang a hooker. But
yeah, and
when
I think that's a problem with Grand Theft Auto, not so much necessarily
exactly.
like
But what I'm getting
putting
to is that
men.
when you sit down to play the game, most games you can create your character, and you could have a girl be a man character and experience the game from that lens. Likewise, you could have a guy create a girl character and experience the game through that lens. And I feel like that's something that is unique that we didn't have 30 years ago or 40 years ago. And that's something that in your mind, I would think you would see the value of, and that again, we're opening that idea of experience up. Of that.
But I don't think running around with a character that's got a set of tits is necessarily going to give you insight into the female experience.
I don't know, because where we're going eventually is virtual reality. And there are a lot of closeted people out there that are going to put on those virtual reality headsets and for the first time experience what it may feel like to be a woman and what it may feel like to be a man and vice versa. And that is something that we're going to have to deal with in society. And I think it's nothing but positive of that. There are a lot of people, like you're saying, that they want to have that experience. They don't feel like they're a man. They feel like they're a woman, but they are a man. And how do you make that transition? They don't know how to do that. And maybe something that opens people's minds to that change or that transition, or even the thought of maybe something is different about me, will be that virtual reality world where you're not hurting anybody. You're just putting on a headset and going into a fake world. And now you've got a red skirt on and pumps, even though you usually work as a plumber during the day. And you get to experience what that feels like to have the quote unquote image finally reflect how you feel inside. The character in the virtual reality or the video game, the avatar, actually reflect how you feel inside, or at least reflect a concept of what you might feel you look like. And I think that's a good thing.
I think that's interesting. And I think that virtual reality level, I think it would depend, because within a video game, you have a lot of control. And obviously, a lot of video games aren't exactly addressing gender issues. But for me, like, what I feel like would be a difference.
They
like
could,
walking
is
down
what
the
I'm
street.
saying. They could.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that virtual reality be a much more realistic reflection, especially if you have less control over the parameters of your virtual reality, of how the other characters within your, virtual reality react to you. Because to me, walking down the street as a woman, especially walking past a man, like, it doesn't matter what I'm wearing. They look at me, not all of them, obviously, but I feel often looked at as a sexual object. It's very obvious to see them look at my chest, look at my vagina, leer at me in a certain way, smile at me in a certain way. And whether or not I'm interested in them, I have to take that. Like, and I can get all uppity about it, and I can get in their faces and tell them that they're wrong, but I got shit to do. Like, exactly. I can't correct every man that I walk by. Occasionally, I'll throw a middle finger. One of my favorite ones is I'll just like walk by and like throw my thumb down and go boo. But that's usually just like in between bars on my way. But like sometimes I just got shit to do. But it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for you, like, to be thought of sexually, to constantly have to worry about, and not that I necessarily worry about it, but to be viewed as a sexual object when I'm just trying to get from point A to point B and, like, make sure that I don't spill my coffee on myself.
Right. And what I'm saying is that somebody getting to see the other side of it in one of those virtual reality settings might actually lead to a positive change. And let me just address men specifically as a man on this issue. Dudes. Yeah. Stop fucking looking at women like they're objects, okay? There is not one dude who has stared a woman down like that, who's a complete stranger walking down the street, and because of your disgusting open mouth gaze, banged them. It's never happened. It's not going to happen to you. You will not be the first. All you're doing is communicating your intelligence level, which is very low, directly to that woman by the fact that you're staring at her even though you don't know her, and you're going to intend on looking at her as she crosses the street going on to the next block. Dudes, stop fucking doing that. It's not cool, for one, but secondly, it's not even effective, okay? Like, even on a Bill Cosby level, Bill Cosby's techniques are more effective than you. Do you understand that? Bill Cosby's techniques are more effective at getting him women than you just blatantly staring at someone on the train platform. Are we clear on that, dudes? Okay? All right, moving on. I had to get that out. I'm sorry, but I fucking hate that, dude. It's like, what do you think is going to come your way by oogling someone, right? And it's one thing if you happen to know them or you're at a party and you catch somebody's eye and then you come over and start a conversation. That's one thing. But 8 a.m. on the train on Monday is not that time, and it's never going to happen. Give up the dream. Just look at your newspaper and think of a better way to interact with a woman that you actually have a relationship with. That's what you should be doing, not staring at a stranger. All you're doing is saying, I'm a creeper. And no one wants to fuck creepers except other creepers. So you got to get on the internet to find the other creepers. You're not going to find them on the train platform, okay? Fuck. All right, sorry.
No, I love it. I think that should be like piped into train cars all over the world.
God, it's just how many dudes operate that way. That's what I'm saying. Okay, that is, I guess, something I left out at the beginning. In addition to dick and balls, apparently something that makes you a dude is staring at another individual that you're sexually interested in, regardless of the situation and how strange it is and what messages they're sending you. Apparently, that's something that dudes are into. I don't see chicks doing that. I really don't. Like, ever. I never see chicks like stare at a dude as he's crossing the street and then moving on to the next block. That never happens. I've never seen it once. Like, girlfriends don't even do that to their dudes. It's like, okay, fine. I'll see you later. Don't forget to pick up Taco Bell on the way home. Like, it's over the second that they turn away. No woman looks longingly at any man from a distance. It never happens. Maybe in Jude Law movies, but that's the only time.
I mean, we're definitely more subtle at it, and I've
Subtle.
talked about this before.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
That's
subtly.
it. It's the evolve, please, dudes. Subtlety. Like, when you know she cannot see you any longer, then feel free to check her out, okay? Because then you're not giving the impression that you're a creeper. She has no idea you're staring at her, then you can look, okay? But I've always said this. If you're doing a full head rotation, you've fucked up. That's way too much. Like, maybe a 90-degree turn or something like that, that's one thing. But a full head rotation watching a woman, that you've gone way too far, just mathematically in terms of the angle. That is too much oogling. Have to dial it back. Have to bring it back a little bit. Wait until she's passed and not looking at you, then you can oogle, okay? I would submit that there's probably dudes that oogle other dudes the same way in the gay community. Dial it back, guys. Like, women do not operate this way. They understand subtlety, right? Subtlety is a sign of intelligence because it shows that you have a filter. So communicate to society that you have a filter, please, on behalf of dudes everywhere. Please, I'm begging.
That's an excellent plea that I feel like all men should hear. And I think another, for me, a reason, or a difference, I should say, more between men and women is, and it's obviously it's not always nice and everything, but men come from it from a point of force. Like, you look at a woman and you feel that you want to, like, force yourself upon her, and where woman looks at a man and is more like, oh, I would let you take me. I just think there's more consent usually involved with a woman's fantasy when she looks at a man, where a man is just like, oh, penis in vagina.
Yeah, definitely, especially if you're in the military. But yeah, there is that connotation of a dude is clearly not thinking like, I can't wait to blow your mind with a gift on our second date. That is not where they're at all mentally, for the most part. You know, and women, for the most part, are more into like, how can we have a meaningful relationship? How can we find beauty in each other? Things like that. I mean, there's a lot of hoes.
Not always.
A lot of hoes.
Like, no. To objectify a man, it does not necessarily make you a hoe, and to enjoy sex does not make you a slut. But I just think
I'm not saying that. But there are hoes
like
on
when I
both
look
sides.
at a male, like when I look at a man on the street, and even like and a woman on the street too, like I fantasize about like a passionate, consensual interaction, where I feel like a lot of men, it comes from like, yes, I would like to fuck that girl whether she'd want me to or not. Like,
I feel like I hear what you're saying, and I think that there was a time when that was 100% accurate. But and you know, on your side, of course, like the rape numbers and things like that all point to you being 100% right on this
Okay.
issue. But just speaking as a man that doesn't think that way and
Right.
would never put myself in the situation of forcing myself on somebody ever. Um,
Obviously.
like speaking for those types of people, those types of men, I would say that yes, there is a more aggressive side to our sexuality, and maybe it's bound in our masculinity, and in other ways it might just be bound in our physical requirements of the sexual acts. Like, you know, when you're saying like, "Ugh, I'm gonna fuck her," it sounds bad, but that is what the dude does. Like once it's consented, right? So there is a certain biological, gender-based role that a man has in a quote unquote sexual interaction, and when a man is having those feelings, you know, whether it's hormonally or just mentally or whatever, those things are being reaffirmed because that is what's going to happen in that situation. He is going to fuck her. Like, we can say she's fucking him, but that's probably not what's happening. Maybe in an
No,
Elliot
right. No,
Spitzer
that's why I
situation,
phrase it.
but
Yeah. Like I am going to allow you inside of me. Like I would give consent for you to penetrate my vagina. Like
that
so
sounds so hot. That has to get the
yes.
guys going.
Absolutely. Every time. Hey, consent is important no matter how awkward the conversation. You know what's not sexy? Rape. Not sexy.
Yeah, yeah. And I think just recently Joe Biden had a great statement saying something like, you know, girls that are plastered drunk cannot give consent, and basically it is rape. You know, and it doesn't matter whether it's a girl raping a girl or a dude raping a girl. Consent is somebody saying it's okay, and that has nothing to do with gender, I would say.
Oh, obviously, yes. Consent is consent, and it is frustrating for constantly that pressure to be put on the woman. Well, she got really drunk, and then what was he supposed to do? Not rape her? Yeah, yes,
She
he
even
was
had her
supposed
rape
to not
skirt
rape
on,
her.
man. She was asking
Exactly,
for it.
right? And it's never like, well, a guy got really drunk and raped a girl, so maybe he shouldn't have gotten really drunk. Maybe I don't.
I see
I
what you're saying. Yeah.
no one should get blackout drunk. It's not good. We all obviously do it, but maybe we should put the emphasis on, hey guys, maybe you should keep your dick in your pants while you're blackout drunk. Like, well, I don't know. Maybe not.
I think that's a massive generalization because a lot of people love to have blackout sex, and that's cool. But
Right, that's fine. As long as it's consensual, man. As long
yeah,
as you agree beforehand. Written
right.
contracts or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you've had a Cosmopolitan and you're on the couch about to pass out and comes over to you and starts putting the moves on, clearly there was not the same page discussion beforehand. And that's what we're talking about is that, you know,
Oh, absolutely.
there's
Yeah.
a certain vibe, you know whether it's cool or not, and it doesn't matter if you're a dude or a chick. There's unsaid rules, and we have to function that way in society. We have to rise to that level, bring subtlety back, don't oogle people, let it be known that what your intentions are, even if it makes it awkward, so that we can clearly move forward on the same page. You know, when people aren't on the same page, apparently people get hurt or taken advantage of, and nobody wants that. That's, you know,
Right.
not a fun Friday.
Right. And I think girls should be empowered to say when they do want sex and not to be named as sluts for it's like, yeah, I would like to have sex with you tonight. Yes, please. And boys should be encouraged to look for consent, to ask for consent, actively ask for consent.
Yeah,
And
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 you know, I just
it's
want
fine.
to say on that note of girls feeling empowered, that is total fucking bullshit, Shannon. Girls
Oh
are the
dear.
most empowered in the world because you control the pussy. You have the
Oh,
pussy
we don't
power.
control the pussy. This is not, I mean, you
You
try to say that.
do.
We
You
don't.
you
We don't.
do.
We don't. We
By your own choice, you don't then. Because
no,
that's what
it's
I'm
not.
saying. What dude, okay, we're at U of I right now. We're about to go out. We just slammed a bunch of beers. What
Yeah.
dude does not want to hear from a chick at a bar, I want you to fuck my brains out? What dude doesn't want to hear that? So how are women not empowered by that fact? The fact that every dude wants to hear a woman say something like that to convey consent.
They just they don't. It's not how that's conveyed, because if a girl was to say that, a guy would not most likely, I would say maybe 75% of the time go, fucking slut.
Oh God, no! That guy would be like, "Where's your apartment? Get your friends away from here. We need to go." That's what I'm saying is the double standard of you can't say that women are like frail and have no strength and all that other shit, and then look past the strengths that you do have. Women do have that empowerment already. It's just a form of education to let them know that they can exercise that power. You can exercise that power.
They need the education. They need the education to know that they do have that power and that they can exercise that power.
Yes, that is where we're on the same page. That
Absolutely.
is the solution of women need to understand the power they hold in society in that way of, again, when a dude who's looking to get with a chick leaves the house at night, they are not thinking of a woman having this long drawn out consent conversation. In their mind, it's like, she's going to tell me if she's cool with it in some way. And it's probably just going to be like, let's fuck. And if it's that simple, then they are empowered.
A distinct, clear, verbal yes. I like this. A distinct, enthusiastic yes.
Okay.
Not
that's
an
good.
enthusiastic yes. Yeah. Pussy power. Absolutely.
Oh, pussy power.
Power to the pussy. Power to the pussy.